have another guest that is going to come in and speak about the legal system in India. So as you guys know, this week I did cover a young man who took his life in India because his wife was taking him, or his ex-wife was taking him to court and abusing the legal system there in order to basically ruin his life. And he ends up with a hour-and-a-half video detailing all of the abuse. And he ends up taking his life, releasing the video, and has a long suicide letter saying that he did not wish to commit suicide. The only reason he committed suicide was because of the court system. Now, this was much to my surprise because as far as I knew, or at least at one point, I believed this was more of a Western problem. But the more I learn about men's rights and men's issues, I see that across the globe, they are discriminated against and having these kind of issues. So when I asked on Twitter about experts that I could bring on the show to talk about the issues in the Indian family court system, one of the accounts that I was referred to was the Save the Indian Family Foundation, the largest men's rights NGO invited by Parliament. And today we have him on the show. So let's bring him up. It says REALSIFF is the account on Twitter.
Thanks, Pearl, for inviting me.
Hi. Could you tell me a little bit more about your background? I just have their Twitter handle. Maybe we could start with, if you don't mind.
Okay. We created this NGO 20 years back. Okay. So I joined the movement in 2004, and in 2005 we created this NGO as a website. And in fact, we came across Dr. Warren Farrell's work, Paul Elam, and a lot of American and Western men's activists. We were all, connecting. And of course, I could meet them only in 2014 in the International Conference on Men's Issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So of course, my personal background is I worked in tech industry. I was an automotive software designer in Bosch, both in India and Germany. And I was also working as a manager in Hewlett-Packard in the R&D, the printer department. Yeah, so that is my background. And then, of course, I quit my job and all I joined startups. I mean, I created my own startups, and of course, I started running this organization, Save Indian Family Foundation.
So how did you get involved? Was that something you went through personally? Did you were taken to family?
Yeah. I went through something personally, and I got red pilled in getting that reality, what is going on. And I was shocked what was going on, because in those days, there were mandatory arrest laws for domestic violence. The whole family can be arrested. The man's parents, his siblings, his brothers and sisters, maybe the sister's minor daughter as well. Everybody will be thrown in prison on mere one line or two line complaint by a woman. Okay, and that is, I'm talking about 2004 or 2005. Of course, we got it changed. But here is what what I'm explaining here, that you said, right? There is a perception that all this radical stuff and feminism woke stuff is only a Western problem, and feminism is really needed in India or maybe China and Africa and Middle Eastern countries. That is not really true, and the Western media is throwing a lot of blue pills on the mass of people, right? So that's the problem, and that's what I want to address.
Yeah. So what do you feel like the media gets wrong? Like, what are they not aware of?
No, they are aware of everything. They are just running their agenda. Okay, like CNN, BBC, Guardian, and New York Times, and everybody. They have a completely ideological agenda, and they are spreading this narrative about India. They are Indian men. They are writing stuff about patriarchy, misogyny, male-dominated society, everything since last 50 years. 50 years. There are so many fake stories. And then there are so many think tanks also. They churn a lot of fake research about India and South Asian countries or African countries and all these countries. And then they use the United Nations to do all kinds of experimentation. So, for example, there is a big narrative that in India, the young women used to be burnt by their in-laws. That's a huge narrative. It was in Oprah in 2001. And they called Bangalore city as the bride burning capital. Okay. But then we found that entire thing was a hoax. So there are so many wrong stuff or false stuff, narratives are being built. And they are continued even now. Like India is being called the rape capital and all that. So there's a lot of narrative going on. And unfortunately, people who are in right wing or conservative, even they are, they buy it because it is so powerful.
Mm-hmm. So could you tell me more about how the legal system works in India? So, because when I went there like a decade ago, but I didn't know too much about. You guys have different like states. Is it similar to the U.S. where you have different states?
I'll
Because I
explain
just
you
remember.
in what way it is similar and in what way it is different.
Okay, go
Okay.
ahead.
It is similar to US states. However, our federal laws are more stronger. The laws are not state specific. Okay. The family laws are more federal. That means it's the same law all over the country. The state, whereas in USA, you go to Florida, you have one set of family laws, and you go to Ohio, it can change, right? So there is a difference. But in India, it is all like a uniform law across the country. That is one important thing. The other thing is the Indian judges of Supreme Court, they retire. And there is somebody called a Chief Justice. Okay. They retire at the age of 65. And then we don't call the state top courts as Supreme Court. We call them high courts. That's the difference. And so we have a hierarchy like the smaller courts, then a high court at the state level, only one high court per state. And then we have the Supreme Court. Okay. And you can continue appealing. Even in a matrimonial dispute, you can go to Supreme Court.
You can go to the Supreme Court for a matrimonial dispute.
Yes. That's strange, right?
Wow.
Isn't it? Yeah.
So it's interesting. You guys have different languages in different states, right? Isn't that true? Yeah.
But English is common.
Yeah. No.
But India is a predominantly English. So English is an official language. So its language is not really an issue. The real problem is we have 50 million pending court cases. So it will take us a couple of centuries to clear all the pendency of all those cases unless we use something like an AI in a really disruptive way, which I think is unlikely to happen because the system is also highly corrupt and we don't have no fault divorce. So a contested divorce can take 6 to 7 years or 8 years. And the alimony, India is by the way, India is actually not a patriarchal country or misogyny, but it is a highly gynocentric country. That means women are put at a pedestal. If you visited India, right, you would see directly, indirectly, women are literally worshipped. Our culture is like that. Of course, there is a balance, but it is not like completely one-sided. Now, the narrative often in the society is that if there is a divorce, a woman's life is destroyed. That is that very traditional kind of a narrative. That is why they expect the man to pay a huge sum of alimony. It can be like 5 to 6 times his annual income. Imagine that, like 5 to 6 years of not savings. It's your annual income. That's what the demands are made by the society and by the, let's say, social people in the society, they mediate or the courts, right? Now, how can a man pay 5 to 6 times of his income, right? He will take like maybe 20 years to earn that much. He can't pay. He will be bankrupt, right? Then the man is told, why don't you tell your parents to sell their properties or something and give us money, and why don't you get a loan? Otherwise, they file all these false cases of domestic violence on the man. So it's basically an industry, false case industry, that is run by the lawyers and the judges, judicial system.
And do you guys have the same immunity for judges and prosecutors there that we have in the U.S.?
Yes. We have severe levels of immunity. In fact, it's much more than, I can't criticize a judge, particular judge. I will get contempt of court. I will be going to prison for a month.
And then is that why? Because one thing, when I first started my show, I would have people come on and argue that like India was the country I would hear about the most, as they would say they don't have any of these relationship issues because their divorce rate is very, very low. So is it low because it takes 6 years to get a divorce?
No. That I'll clarify the data because we are doing research for so long. India's divorce rate is around 6%. I mean, divorce and separation rate. Whereas there is a lot of fake stuff that's going on that it's less than 1% because that is 20-year-old data. Let me tell you, I am 52 right now. At the age of 30, in my first 30 years of my life, I only knew two people who were divorced. Okay. I only knew two people who were divorced for 30 years of my life till the year, let's say 2001. So divorce is a very recent phenomenon. I mean, last 2-3 decades like that. However, it is rapidly increasing. Okay. And I'll tell you, in certain groups or families or regions, divorce rate is as high as 33%. Okay.
Okay, so the data is old. And so you're saying the first half of your life, you only knew two people that got divorced. Wow, what was that cultural shift like? That had to have been, because I mean, I've seen it in America, but my whole life, you always knew someone that was getting divorced. So it wasn't, I can't imagine going through
Let
life
me put it this way.
yeah, go
Let me
ahead.
put it this way. You heard of the trad stuff, right? You heard of the trad stuff, right? We have lived that life. We have seen our parents as the trad. Okay, so I have lived that life. I know how it feels. However, those people in those days, they were not getting divorced, not because the divorce laws were not friendly. It was not easy to get divorced or go to court. The other problem was that the man and the woman were financially dependent on each other. Like poor people do not get divorced, you know, because you are surviving on each other for money, right? You don't want to end up destitute. Okay, it can happen, right? So that's how the country becomes more affluent. People will have more choices. Yeah.
Got it. So I'm curious, have dating apps affected India at all? Has like are
Not
people
really, I
oh
can say.
no. Okay.
Not really. Whether it's an arranged marriage or it is a love marriage or a dating marriage, the risk of divorce and separation is equal.
Oh, it is. Okay. So, can you tell me a little bit more about this case that we've been covering? So, it's received internet. I mean, I'm covering and I'm in America. So, do you see it
Yes.
being effective at like has it gotten attention in India?
Yes.
What has been the
Yeah.
ramification
I
of
mean,
this
I mean, it
video?
has got massive attention in print media, TV media, the top TV channels. Let's say Republic or India Today and Times Now. These are all top TV channels, and the CNN's equivalent, CNN 18 and all that. They all have covered it several days. So it's like a top story going on for last 48 hours.
And do you think, like, have there been any arrests made? Can she even be prosecuted for like false claims, or they're
Uh,
looking into the judge?
when a man dies, when a man dies, he gets murdered. He gets murdered by his wife, or this kind of a situation. There is a chance that she may be arrested. She may be in the prison for 14 days or so. That's it. After that, nothing much happens. She gets released under bail. She may right now apply for anticipatory bail, which may get rejected. But generally, for men, this is not that stringent, and they are quite lenient. So the consequences for this kind of a woman are not high.
Okay. And what?
And there is one more ironic point.
Mhm.
All the false cases she filed on the man, they will continue running against his parents. So he's dead, but his parents have to keep facing those false cases for next couple of years.
Wow.
Because all these false domestic cases are filed on the parents as well. So their son is dead, but the parents will be running around those courts.
And that's because of the dowry law, right? There's some
I
law
mean, the
with dowry.
Indian domestic violence law, they consider the whole family, because India used to have a joint family system. So even India has two domestic violence laws, by the way. So one is the law related to dowry or cruelty, which was actually before the American domestic violence law. This law was passed in 1983. The American domestic violence law, WAVA, was passed in 1994. So we are ahead of USA. And then in 2005, India got more Joe Biden style domestic violence, law, which Joe Biden drafted. So we have two domestic violence laws. Okay, one has restraining orders and all that, which is recent. But the earlier one, which is more related to dowry and cruelty, which is 1983. Yeah.
Are you guys seeing the same trends there when it comes to like women not having children, women getting educated? Is
Yes.
that's
Yes.
it's all the same in India? Okay.
I mean, the age of marriage of women in every decade, it has shifted by 4 or 5 years. So let's say 15 years back, I will be surprised if I hear people marrying after 30. People used to get married. I mean, women used to get married around 24, 25. Now, average woman marries 28, 30, kind of. So the age of marriage of women is shifting due to a lot of government policies as well. Because to control the population, they are encouraging women in this way to because Indian population they are trying to control just like what they did in China.
Okay, well, is there anything else that you think an American audience should know about India, or about this case that you think is important?
Yeah, about this case, I would like to say that just half an hour before committing suicide, he tweeted to Elon Musk and Donald Trump. So he felt that there is some hope for men as long as there is Elon Musk and Trump doing something. So just imagine in a distant place like India, there are men who are counting on them. So that tweet is there in the. I will share it. So
Mm-hmm.
and he uploaded a video, that entire video in Rumble, because he believed that there will not be any censorship. So this censorship issue, free speech issue, and all these are universal. I mean, that is what we are all facing, and we were all banned and shadow banned and deplatformed from many of the social media. So that's what I can say. That is the problem is same that we are facing. One of our Supreme Court Chief Justice who just retired just now, he said Indian Constitution is a feminist document.
The Constitution is feminist.
Yeah.
Wow.
He had a Harvard PhD. Okay, so he had one leg in the
Really?
Harvard always. Yeah, yeah.
So he had the
That's what we face.
wow. Well, thank you very much for coming on. We'll
Thank you.
definitely have you back for different cases. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And where can you tell them
Thanks
where
for
they
inviting.
could find you? Your YouTube website, whatever.
We have our website, saveindianfamily.org. That is where most male victims land to get support. We have Telegram groups and all. And our Twitter ID is real SIF, real SIFF. Real is real, just like real Donald Trump, and SIFF, S for San Francisco, and I and FF.
Well, thank you so much.